talk about your roommate, all right? We'll talk about little Fizzy. All right, while you run around a little bit. All right, let me get my phone. All right. Okay. Hi, everybody. Let me get rid of the pin. All right. Okay. All right, so first of all, hello, everyone. Fizz did very well under anesthesia. She is currently waking up. But she did very well. So that's a relief. I also have the results from the MRI, which turned out to be quite unexpected. I'm going to be talking a little slower, taking some pauses because Nutty is ceasing and there's a lot of information to cover. So please be patient as I take my time explaining. Okay, so first thing, Fizz does have hydrocephalus, confirmed. Not a surprise. What is a surprise is the cause of the hydrocephalus. It is actually a pretty rare reason that she has hydro. And that's what makes this interesting. So let me get my notes here. In a normal, healthy brain, cerebrospinal fluid, which we shorten to CSF, is fluid that flows through a network of tiny channels in your brain. And that CSF provides a cushion around your brain and your spinal cord. In a regular, healthy cat, they produce, a regular amount of CSF that flows through the brain and out, down through the brainstem. In the hydro cats like Tate, who were born with hydrocephalus, and the condition that we most often see, the cat produces too much CSF, and the brain cannot pass it through the ventricles fast enough. So, imagine a hose where, you know, you have water flowing through, but the spigot where the water's coming from is at full blast. There's just a ton coming through it, and it just, you know, the hose, it just can't get through the hose at a regular speed. And so it starts accumulating and backing up into the brain. So that's a common cause of hydrocephalus. That's what Tate has. That's what most cats with hydrocephalus have. They just produce too much fluid. And so if we can manage the amount of fluid, then we can manage the hydrocephalus. I'm going to take a pause for a second while Nutty catches up. So in Fizz's case, she actually has in what's called the lateral apertures, which is a piece of her brain. There are obstructions. So the channel that the fluid passes through is obstructed. Think of it very similar to Eden's PRAA, PRAA condition, where she has an obstruction in her esophagus. So if you think about Eden, when she's eating the food and it comes to that obstruction in her esophagus, it starts backing up in her throat. In Fizz's case, that obstruction is in her brain. And so the fluid that's supposed to be regularly flowing through it starts backing up at that obstruction. And she has two on either side of her brain, and they're both impacted. So this is called a lateral aperture obstruction. And that's what's caused the fluid buildup in our brain, which is called hydrocephalus. So it's not the overproduction of CSF. It's presumably a normal production of CSF, but it can't flow at a normal rate. It gets blocked up at that obstruction in her brain. Now, if you Google lateral aperture obstruction, you will find some really good information. Google AI has a great summary. You will be able to read more details about this in humans, and it's the same condition in humans as it is in a cat, but in veterinary med, this is rarely seen and it's been rarely studied. So when you Google, you're going to be seeing a lot of information about it in humans, and it's still relevant, but you're not going to find information about this in cats. So that's why I say it's rare, because even though we know a lot about it in humans, we don't know, we don't see a lot of it in animals. Now, that explains the hydrocephalus. what happens because of this obstruction is when fluid actually makes it through the obstruction, it comes through the obstruction and has a high volume, low pressure stream. And why that's important is it creates a condition where when it filters through her brainstem and down her spinal column, because of this irregular rate, it creates these fluid-filled pockets right at the top of the spinal cord. These pockets are called, oh, you got it itchy. These pockets are called Syringomyelia. Syringomyelia. And Nutty has the spelling of that. So these are little pressured bubbles along the spinal column. And those pressured bubbles press on the spine in various ways. And it's that condition, Syringomyelia, that causes her back legs to be weak and not fully functional. That's what we call ataxia in her back legs. Imbalance. That's what causes the pain that she gets in her back end. It's this pressure on that spinal cord that causes these two things to happen. So we have two situations. We have the obstruction inside her brain, and then we have these pressurized bubbles along her spinal cord. And this is what explains her hydrocephalus, her ataxia, and her pain disorder. So we have answers to all of these things. This is why we need an MRI. This is why Dr. Glass does not like to diagnose a cat without an MRI, because it's not always straightforward. It's not always the same thing. We would never have learned about this information without the MRI. We would have never known. And the treatment is different for her condition than it is for cats like Tate. So this was critical in being able to help her. Now I want to pause for a second. I'm going to talk about what our treatment options are. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But does anybody have questions about the condition itself? And if there's another mod around watching, not Nutty, but another mod, if someone could log questions, I'd appreciate it, because I won't always know the answer to all of them. But I'll take questions if anybody at this point is confused about it or needs some clarification. Thanks, LB. Yeah, I just want to log any questions. Although it doesn't look like we have any right now. What causes it? So, that's a great question, Limi. What causes it is, before she was born, the way that Dr. Glass explained it was an embryonic episode where those lateral apertures did not open wide enough during embryonic development. So while she was still inside her mom, the parts of her brain, the tube essentially in her brain did not fully open the way that it should in a normal brain. So so it stayed closed and tight. So that's what in a normal healthy brain, as they grow inside the womb, those lateral apertures open up and widen. Almost like, a kitten is first born with their eyes closed, and over time, they open their eyes. It's like that. And so it just never fully opened. So it's just something that she was born with, but nothing, no trauma or anything that caused it. I don't think it's good news or bad news. It's just the way she is. All right, so next up, treatment. So there are 4 different treatment options that Dr. Glass laid out. First, of course, is we don't pursue anything and we euthanize. That's always something that a doctor will present when you're talking about a complicated case. I told him at this point we have not exhausted all the options, so that's off the table. We are not going to consider euthanasia at this time. Second option is medicine only. And Dr. Glass made this clear that medicine, like the ones she's on right now, might work short term, but they will fail long term. This condition that she has is progressive and will get worse over time. So medicine, might work over the next couple weeks or so, but eventually it's not going to work anymore. Third option is a shunt. Now, we know how a shunt works, right? So a shunt, a valve is put in attached to their skull with a tube that is in their brain and runs all the way down the side of them and into their abdomen. And how this works is the valve pumps extra fluid out of their brain and dumps it into their abdomen so that they don't have this extra fluid buildup in their brain. Now, Dr. Glass said, again, this might work short term, but will likely fail long term because the shunt will be overworked. And my understanding is this doesn't resolve the issue in the spinal cord. You know, those bubbles of pressure in the spinal cord. So my understanding, and I'm going to clarify this with him, is it doesn't actually fix her ataxia and it doesn't fix her pain disorder, but it does manage the hydrocephalus. Fourth and final option is surgery that fixes the obstruction. So Dr. Glass actually opens up the back of her skull, lifts up the cerebellum, and finds these two lateral apertures, and very delicately, because they are a quarter of the size of your pinky nail, tiny, 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 1/4 of your pinky nail, and he removes the obstruction. So in other words, makes that channel a normal width for the fluid to flow through. So it didn't fully open up at birth. He will surgically open up those two channels, and he has to do that, one on each side. This will create the more permanent fix for her. But as you can imagine, this is an incredibly delicate, incredibly risky surgery. And the good news is he has done this successfully before. He did this in a German Shepherd puppy, 16-week-old. So, you know, not so bigger than a kitten, but still, you know, not a full-size dog. Performed this exact surgery, and the dog lived to be 12, 13 years old, no additional problems. He was adopted, and he ended up living a fantastic life. And as far as Dr. Glass is aware, he doesn't know of any other neurosurgeon who has performed this surgery in vet med. He said that most neuros will opt for other options and not perform this surgery. But, you know, he's willing and able to do it. So we have, you know, we were given 4 options. We've, of course, ruled out euthanasia. So we're really down to 3 options. And I haven't made a decision yet. Dr. Glass wants to talk more about it in person. He wants to show me the MRI, show me what the surgery would look like while we look at the images. So, you know, he doesn't want a decision today. You know, he wanted me to do some more research after our call. So I don't have an answer yet on, you know, exactly what option we're going to take. I don't have any information about how long the surgery takes, how much it costs, what the recovery looks like, what age she could have it. I don't know any of that information. So I can't answer any of those kind of questions. But I just want to let you know that there are options, and at least one of these options could potentially provide Fizz with a great amount of relief from her symptoms right now. So I feel hopeful. I feel, you know, I'm glad that we didn't get news where, you know, it was doom and gloom with no options and no hope. I'm feeling optimistic. I'm eager to see what we can do for her to try to provide her a more comfortable life. So she's spending the night at the hospital tonight just for extra observation. You know, hydro cats are a little bit more sensitive to anesthesia. So I just wanted her to have some extra eyes on her while she's at the hospital. I'll pick her up tomorrow. And when I pick her up, I will meet with Dr. Glass, we'll review the MRI, we'll review treatment options, that sort of thing. So I want to make sure that any questions that you guys have that I'm not able to answer today, especially around the treatment options, you can post them in chat. I'm not going to be able to answer most of them, but post them in chat. Elby's going to copy those questions and make me a list. And I'll make sure that when I meet with Dr. Glass tomorrow, you know, I have my checklist of questions. Yes, Marcia. He did mention that there's a possibility that she would need the obstruction surgery. Excuse me, Miss Eden. The obstruction surgery and a shunt. So my understanding is that that's one question I still have. Like, if the obstruction surgery fixes the hydro or not, you know, or does she need a shunt in addition to that to fix the hydro? It sounded to me like the obstruction surgery fixes everything, but then he said, you know, we could do the shunt as well. So that was a little confusing to me. So, her diarrhea, so she is being seen by an internal med at the hospital. They haven't evaluated her yet, but they plan on evaluating her either today or tomorrow. So I'm hoping that we get some guidance about her diarrhea from internal med. But I haven't gotten any word from them yet. I think that's all I had for the update. So let me know if you guys have questions. We always seem to be learning something new here, don't we? We are experienced at KKP with hydrocephalus, but now we have hydrocephalus that has an unusual cause. And if you Google those two terms, you'll learn a lot about about her condition. So Google lateral aperture obstruction, and then also Google Syringomyelia. Two separate things. But there's a lot of information, especially the Google AI did a really good job summarizing. And you'll see, especially on the Syringomyelia, you'll see how that that condition in humans causes pain. It causes leg weakness, sensitivity to touch. So you'll see a lot of the things that Fizz suffers from is caused by that condition in humans as well. All right, miss. You're going to go back in? Okay. Maybe have a little snack. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much for the CC Nutty. Great job. I will be saving this to the channel in case anyone misses it or wants to go back and listen to it again. Oops. All right. Thanks, everyone. Now spend some time researching.